Claude Cowork's marketing plugin has a list of different skills, but most tutorials just do a click through of each skill without any context when you would actually use what. So instead, I'm going to build a hot sauce brand from scratch just using the marketing plugin and the skills associated with it. By the end of this video, you'll have a better understanding of what the skills do and when to use each one. So let's start with the plugin itself. If you don't know what a plugin is in Claude Cowork, it's essentially a single installable bundle. So it has skills, connectors, and a bunch of other things. We are going to be using Anthropic's official marketing plugin. So that is important because you know it is safe. If you have never installed a plugin before, what you'll want to do on Claude Cowork is head over to Customize. And here on the left panel, you'll see this plus icon. Hit Browse Plugins and search for marketing. Once you see it here, there should be a plus icon here. All you need to do is hit it, and then that'll install the plugin. There's also an array of different plugins here as well, which I would encourage you guys to just explore and check out. Now, once you have the marketing plugin, then let's head back on over to Claude Cowork and let's get started with creating this hot sauce brand. For this brand, we are going to cover 6 of the skills in this marketing plugin. So we are going to do a competitive analysis. We're going to create a brand voice. We're going to do campaign planning. We're going to do content creation. We're going to do an email sequence, and we're going to create performance reports. Each of these skills answer a specific question or solve a problem that we're trying to address when we think about starting a hot sauce brand from scratch. Now, let's jump into the first skill, which is the competitive analysis. And the best way to understand it is to actually watch it in use. So, the question we're trying to answer is, who am I up against? And what does the hot sauce space even look like? To run the first skill, all you need to do is hit backslash and type in competitive analysis. And this should pop up for you. If it doesn't, you might need to restart your Claude Cowork after you've installed the marketing plugin. Now, once you execute this skill, it's going to ask you a few questions. So let's look at those together. To start off, it looks like it's asking me, what is your company or product? I'm going to call it Tim's Hot Sauce. Creative, I know. And which competitors should I analyze? I'm going to say figure it out for me because I genuinely don't eat hot sauce that much. So I don't really know a lot of the companies and brands that are out there. In terms of what should I focus on, I'm going to say focus on positioning and messaging because I really want to understand how our hot sauce is going to fit into the market and if there are any gaps. And then I'm going to say focus on pricing and packaging as well. In terms of how I should deliver it, I'm going to say spreadsheet and I'm going to hit continue. Now, I'm going to let this run and resume the video once it's finished. That has finished running, and this is the output that we got. We have an Excel document with 4 tabs: positioning and messaging, pricing and packaging, takeaways and gaps, and sources and methods. Now, before we review this output, I don't know about you guys, but I actually don't really like reading the format of an Excel document all that much. And I learned this from an article that one of the engineers from Anthropic wrote, which is, let's turn this into a nicer HTML design that makes it easier to digest. So what I'm going to do is say, turn this matrix into an HTML diagram. Let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to give that a second to run and then show you guys. That has finished running. So let's take a look at what the diagram looks like for, it looks like it created it specifically for the pricing opportunity. Now we have this great diagram that makes the information so much easier to digest. Here, it is extremely obvious for us to see where the opportunity is in terms of a pricing perspective. It looks like from the range of $1.80 and $2.60, we have an opportunity because there seems to be a gap there. And this is just so much easier for me to see and understand than it is trying to read this off of an Excel sheet. So hopefully that helps you guys. And that's a little neat trick that I personally like. Just keep in mind that does take up more tokens. So if you are getting close to your limit, then keep that in mind. Now that we have this competitive analysis, I'm going to ask, can can you summarize the takeaways and how I can translate that into the next step that we're going to do, which is our brand voice? And I'm specifically going to be using the marketing plugin brand voice skill to create that. Now, here, what I'm trying to do is understand the takeaways from the competitive analysis that Claude did. And then from those takeaways, think about how we can translate that into our next skill, which is going to be the brand voice. Now that this is running, I'm going to read over it and then we're going to jump into the second skill. Cowork gave a great summary of the takeaways that we need to focus on, and that is to stay craft and understand that every winner in the market lives in a specific lane. So you don't want to try and do too much. For example, you don't want to be affordable, but also come off as super premium. Those two ideas contradict in the consumer's mind. So we're going to take the rest of the takeaways and its write up on how we can translate that to the next skill, which is the brand voice. So let's execute that. I'm going to give this a second to run, and then it's going to ask a few questions. So let's see what those questions are in a second. Here are the questions that the brand voice is asking me. First thing, what's the one thing Tim owns? So here is our differentiator. I'm going to say family recipe slash heritage. And I'm going to lean into my family being Vietnamese and saying this is a Vietnamese recipe that has been shared down for 3 or 4 generations. And it is specifically Vietnamese. I kind of repeated Vietnamese there, but bear with me, you guys. The next question is if Tim's hot sauce were a person, who would they be? And is Tim a real founder? I'm going to say yes. Tim is a real person. He was born in the United States, but his entire family, mom, grandma, great grandma, were all born in Vietnam. And he wants to take what they taught him about making hot sauce and productize that into a product. um, Next question. Which of these are actually true for your sauce? Claims we can use. So I'm going to say small batch, locally made, and where should the voice sit? I'm going to say laid back and warm. I think I like that vibe a little bit better. And how should I deliver the brand voice guide? I'm going to say Word doc. Okay, we have answered a few of the what I call onboarding questions for this skill. Now I'm gonna hit continue, let this run, and let's see what happens. The brand voice has finished running, so let's kind of get the gist of what it came up with. First off, it looks like it created us this brand and style guide, and this is pretty comprehensive, I would say, 4 or 5 pages. It looks like the heart of it is the recipe is Tim, so me, born in the US with mom, grandma, and great grandma, born in Vietnam. So the voice is a generous home cook, not a marketer. It leads with heritage, names the cuisine specifically Vietnamese, never Asian inspired. Asian inspired is actually a funny one. And stays quietly confident rather than loud. And the doc, I think, is great because it looks like it covers 7 frameworks. So personality, voice attributes, audience messaging, tone, style rules, and terminology. So I think that's great. And it also says 2 things I made a deliberate call on, flag if you disagree. Okay, this is great. So it looks like it took a stretch or made a decision that it feels like was a stretch based off of the onboarding questions I answered. So it's giving me a heads up so that I'm okay with them. And after skimming through that, that works with me. Now we have our entire brand voice and identity. So the question is, how can we get seen? That is where the third skill in the marketing plugin comes in, which is campaign planning. So, as always, you can go ahead and hit backslash. And for this specifically, we are going to hit campaign planning. And I'm going to let this run. And then it's going to ask a few questions. So I'll start the video back up once we have those questions so that you guys can see them with me. It looks like we have the questions from the campaign planning skill. So let's go through those together. First one, what's the main goal of this campaign? We have launch the product, build awareness, drive sales, grow a following. I'm going to say launch the product because we're a brand new brand. Where are you selling right now? Ooh, this is a great question. So I'm going to say right now, maybe we are just in farmers markets and events, but we're wanting to launch the product online nationwide, maybe one day around the world. When do you want to run it? And is there a date to hit? So today is May 29th. I'm going to say, let's have a tight deadline and say Monday. Any timing or context? Launching for Lunar New Year, that's kind of interesting. I don't think Lunar New Year is until next February, so we're already past that. No timing context. Roughly, what can you spend on this campaign? I'm going to say $2,000 plus. How much time can you or anyone helping put in each week? I'm going to say I'm quitting my job and Tim's hot sauce is going to be my full focus. How should I deliver the campaign plan? I'm going to say Word doc. And then once we have that Word doc, maybe I'm going to want to turn it into an HTML diagram again, because that might be easier to digest, but we'll see. So I'm going to hit continue and then let's see what it gives us. The campaign planning skill finished running. So let's take a look at the campaign plan that it generated for us. I took a quick skim of this and there's actually two parts that I really like. Now, this is the beginning, and the first thing I actually like is actually on this first page here, which is your target date is June 1st, which is days away. Too soon to build buzz before the very first market, but perfect as a launch kickoff. Now, you might be asking, Timothy, why do you like that part specifically? That's because this is so illustrative of why the onboarding questions are so important. It recognized that, hey, you said your target date is June 1st. So it built a plan that was custom and fit into that short timeline. If you think about it, imagine you didn't give it any date at all. Well, it would just have to take a guess as to not only when you were planning to launch, but what type of plan works based off of the conditions that you never gave it. Guys, AI is amazing, but always remember, it cannot read your mind. So it always performs best with the more context that you give it. So if I didn't give it this context of June 1st and told it to create a plan, and it gave me a plan that I need 6 months to execute, well, then I would have had to gone back and say, hey, actually, let's completely scrap that plan because this doesn't work because I'm launching in a few days. That was the first thing that I really like. Let's go through the rest of it. It looks like it created us a goal section and it made it into a SMART goal. A SMART goal kind of gives me PTSD from school. If you guys know what that is, it gave us an overview for audience. It gave us a core message. This is my family's Vietnamese hot sauce, 4 generations of it. And I made it by hand so you can bring it to your table. I think that's a pretty good core message. It gave us a channel mix. And what's interesting about this channel mix is that it broke down how the budget should be allocated for this mix in the section down here at 5. So I thought that was really nice as well. It gave us a content calendar, but the piece The second piece that I told you guys, because I liked two things specifically, was this section here, 7, which is how we'll measure it. This is so important because it gives you actual objectivity that you can measure a metric that you're working on for. Because the thing is, sometimes we can create a plan and it can be super vague and we don't know what success looks like. Well, here with this section number 7, we have a very clear idea of how we can measure all of the things that we've set out for this campaign. Now, we have the campaign plan, but the question is, what do we actually need to create? That is where the content creation skill in the marketing plugin comes into play. Now, in the campaign plan that it gave us a little bit of an overview of a content calendar, but this is pretty broad in general. So we're really wanting to drill down on this to see what we actually need to create. So as always, let's start the content creation skill. And then I'm going to hit run and let's see what questions it asks us. The first question it's asking is, which specific pieces should it write? I'm going to say write the launch week Instagram posts, write the launch email, and the booth signage copy. Now, when's the first market? Okay, so the first market we're going to say is Miller's Farmers Market. Price, bottle size, and how many flavors. I'm going to tell it to go off of the pricing analysis. Instagram handle, I'm going to say at Tim's Hot Sauce and timshotsauce.com. Anything specific to include or avoid. Oh, this is great actually. So I'm going to say, it gave me a great idea. I'm going to say it's great on pho. It's great on pho and uses Thai chilies. I'm going to say Word doc for the delivery and hit continue. So let's see what it comes up with. That has finished running and I took a quick skim and there are some things that I actually really like. So let's go through it. First off, for the, it called this the launch content pack. So this is basically the output that it created for the content creation skill. Now, the note on price, I think, is great because here I mentioned during the onboarding to price it in the gap that we found in the competitive analysis. So it went ahead and did that. So we're pricing it about $2.40 an ounce. I thought that was great. And then it wrote the copy for 6 posts that we can use to tease up to us officially launching it nationwide. So that was great. There's a piece here though that I really did like, which is here under the booth signage copy. What was great is, yes, it has copy for the main banner, and most chatbots or most LLMs, depending on what model you use, especially some of the older ones, would have probably stopped right here. But what's great is it not only thought about the copy that is needed for the main banner in a booth, but it thought about the copy for all of the other aspects. So this story sign, this tasting invite, and this tasting invite, I think is great because it's so much more convincing than try a sample. It's like, hey, try a little. And here it gives a great sub headline to help convince that person to try a taste. That was really good. And it gave us the copy for the launch email. Now, I think we are really starting to have a plan come together from taking this hot sauce brand from 0 to 1. But the next question is, we have this step completed, but what's next? Well, I feel like we need to flesh out our email plan a little bit more. And the good thing, there's a skill for that. This skill is called /email sequence. As always, I'm going to let this run and let's see what questions it asks us. The first question is, which sequence do you want first? I'm going to say welcome new signups because hopefully at the booth we collect a lot of email addresses. Second question, any incentive you're willing to offer? Ooh, great question. I'm going to go ahead and say a bundle, so a 3-pack deal. Next question, how many emails and how spaced out? I'm going to say you recommend, and let's deliver that via a Word doc. So let's see what it creates for this email skill. It just finished creating that email sequence for us. And as always, I took a look and there's actually a few things that I think are really good. As we expected, we have the copy for all of the emails for the sequence. But what I think is really good here is if we scroll down, it completely laid out the sequence flow of the entire process. And that piece I think is amazing because it did more than just write copy. Because if you think about it, you could just go to ChatGPT right now and just say, "Hey, can you write the copy for me? Can you write the copy for me for these emails?" Obviously, whether it's good or not is subjective. Probably won't be that good. Uh, Other than the sequence flow, what's also great is that it gave an overview of the branches slash exits for the entire sequence. And so this just relates to when person does A, where do they go to? And that is what they call a branch, or what action do they take after doing action A. And the next part is it gave it a rundown of performance benchmarks, A and B tests worth running, and metrics to track. So, from my perspective, where I think this skill did a really great job is not necessarily the copy, because I'm sure it did great there, but what it did after that, creating the sequence flow, giving a breakdown of the branching, the performance benchmarks that we need to look out for, the A and B tests worth running, and the metrics to track. So, overall, pretty comprehensive, and I'm pretty happy with what this looks like. Now, it created this email plan for us, but how are we going to measure everything after the launch and the event finishes? Well, that's where the performance reporting skill comes in. As always, we can initiate that by typing in performance report. I'm going to hit enter and give this a second to run. So let's see what it comes back with. It looks like the first question that it asked, which is completely logical. Since you haven't launched yet, what's most useful to you right now? That's a great point because I don't have any data to give it because we haven't launched yet. I'm going to say a reusable tracker that I can have set up so that once we do have numbers start coming in, we have that ready. If you have any early numbers, paste or upload them. I'm going to skip. I'm going to say track market sales, how our email sequence did, and the performance of our shop online. How should I deliver it? I'm going to say spreadsheets, and hopefully we might be able to turn that spreadsheet actually into a little bit of a dashboard. So we'll see. I'm going to hit continue, and let's see what the template it creates looks like. That finished running, and it looks like it gave us an output for a dashboard, which is the launch performance dashboard, assumptions and targets, a market log, an email log, and a web shop log. Now, let's focus on this launch performance dashboard and see if we can't improve it a little bit. If y'all remember the tip that I told y'all earlier, what I'm going to do is say, can you turn the launch performance dashboard into an HTML dashboard? Let's see what it does, and maybe we can make that look a little bit better. That finished running, and I actually really like the output. If you think about the way that we as human beings have traditionally worked in the past, we have settled for building things in Excel like this. Unless you have a reporting or dashboard building background, you don't know what it's like to be able to turn a file that you have in Excel to an interactive dashboard that is so much easier for you to look at and make decisions on. What's great is that this dashboard not only looks better visually, but it becomes so much easier for you to interact with it. So here it's saying, how many single bottles did you sell in the market? I'm going to say 20. I'm going to say the web shop had 10 orders at 10 singles sold. I'm going to say the email campaign had 1,000 emails delivered. From that, 300 opened. And from that, 60 clicked. Now, you start to see where this becomes so awesome. And I love this little tip of turning things into HTML formats for you to digest easier. Hopefully, you guys think and see that benefit as well too. And that's it, guys. We completed a competitive analysis. We built a brand voice. We did a campaign plan. We created a content creation schedule. We created an entire email sequence nurture process. And we also created a performance report dashboard. All of this is only possible because of the capabilities and functionality of Claude Cowork. And although this process isn't perfect, because there are still parts of it where you require a human in the loop, think about how much time this saves a business owner that has no employees and is doing everything themselves. They're able to get so much time back for themselves and actually work on what they love best, which is making hot sauce. I'm Timothy. I work in advanced analytics at an investment firm, and I like making YouTube videos on Claude Cowork. If you're interested in a Claude Cowork course/community that I'm building, feel free to join the waitlist down below.